Hello everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to the channel. I am here today with a review of The Wicked and the Divine, Book 1. So The Wicked and the Divine, Book 1 contains issues 1 through 11 of this series. So if you are normally a trade paperback collector, this would be Volume 1 and Volume 2 in this one hardcover book. That it looks beautiful. I love the simplicity of the cover, and the back design just has the synopsis, which is so brief, and it's just really well put together. And the oversized art looks fantastic, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, this series is written by, you can see right here, written by Kieran Gillen. I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly, but it is drawn by Jamie McKelvey as the artist, and then Matthew Wilson as the colorist, and Clayton Cowles as the letterer. So that is the team behind this series, behind this book at least. I don't imagine it changes much throughout the series, but I don't know for sure yet. So what did I think of The Wicked and the Divine, Book 1? Well, let's dive right in. So to give a quick synopsis, The Wicked and the Divine tells the story of these 12 gods who return to Earth as young people every 90 years. They are basically treated as celebrities, so they have like a rabid fan base that absolutely loves them, and then they're usually treated pretty poorly by the mainstream media, and of course they have people that hate them. But regardless of how they're treated, after 2 years of being back, they're all dead. And then this cycle continues. We, of course, are going to be following basically what's like, I was able to pick up is the beginning of this next cycle. So that's what this whole series is about. I originally purchased The Wicked and the Divine Volume 1, so the trade paperback, which has issues 1 through 6. I purchased that when it was newer, so probably around I'm probably not going to hold this up the whole time because it's kind of heavy, so here it is. It's beautiful, but, so I purchased that sometime around probably 2013, 2014. So the series was still ongoing at that point. It's completed now, but I read it and I thought it was good. I enjoyed it, but it didn't grab me as much. It didn't hook me as hard as I hoped it would. At least not enough to go out and purchase the second volume and continue the series. And so I had been thinking about this series lately and thinking that I'd want to give it another shot just to see what didn't hook me about it the first time through. And on top of that, this website I follow, like I mentioned in my February TBR, Comics Bookcase, they were doing a reread. They started a reread project through this. So basically what they'll do is once a week, they post a more in-depth and detailed kind of analysis of each issue every week until they've gone through the entire series. And so that, mixed with the fact that I've been wanting to give this another shot, that was really the spark I needed to give this another shot. And so I ended up, if I can get it straight, I ended up borrowing this from my library. You can see the library stickers on it here. And I am so glad that I decided to give this another shot, because once you make it past that first arc, the second arc, or what would be the second volume, I mean, it just blew me away. Even on my second read through, I could tell why I wasn't as hooked as I hoped I would be the first time through. There are some issues that are absolutely amazing. Like the first issue, for example, you are just boom, off and running, man. It's great. But then there are some really confusing issues, like issue number 4. I find that some of the issues are super dialogue heavy, and that's in this first arc, at least, where I started to find some of my confusion. These conversations that they have are about these different gods most of the time, and they refer to all these different gods throughout, and they have the most confusing names and just the most ridiculous names I've ever heard in my life. And so I'm like, find myself flipping back to figure out which god they're actually talking about as I'm trying to, go through these dialogue heavy moments. And I just found myself a little bit confused. And honestly, even some of the plot itself was a bit confusing, but that really was lesser than the dialogue heavy moments, which really, it slowed it down for me and just, it had me lost a little bit, probably just because my concentration wasn't there. And I get it. That issue probably won't be for everyone. That may have just been for me, but all I can give you is the experience I had. And that was the experience I had while going through this first arc. But fortunately though, the way it ends, because issue 6 is just as strong as issue 1. So basically the end of volume 1, or the end of that first arc, as I've been referring to it as, is excellent. It does such a good job of setting up the second set of books, or the second half of the book, I should say, that I just had to keep going. Before jumping over to the second half of this book, I want to mention the first arc is basically we are following our main character, which is the main character throughout the entire book. Her name is Laura. She is a 17-year-old girl. She's basically a God fangirl. I feel like she finds herself deeper into the situation than she could have ever imagined herself to be. And we follow her as she essentially is basically falling in love with Lucy, who is one of the gods, Lucifer. And Lucifer ends up in prison, which I don't want to give any spoilers, so I won't talk about exactly how that happens. But she ends up in prison, and so Laura is trying to help her free her, basically. And so that is basically the entire story of the first arc, is how Lucy is going to get out and how Laura is going to help her. And then the second arc picks up about a month after that one wraps up. And as I mentioned, the first arc is good, don't get me wrong, but it's really the second arc, or what would be the second half of the book, or the second volume, issues 7 through 11, that really just take off and bring this series onto a whole new level that I wasn't expecting at all. Talking about the book itself, the art in this series is absolutely beautiful. This is just one of the covers, so there's no spoilers here. Some panels on here are incredibly detailed, and then there are others that are like this, that are just literally like words on a black page. But either way, they do such a good job of helping move the action forward. And each one, here's one of the more detailed ones, like this panel here. It's just so detailed. It's awesome. But either way, whatever the choice is, whether it's going to be just a face on a kind of blank background, or it's going to be incredibly detailed with, detailed backgrounds and facial work in, like you saw in that one picture, like the veil she was wearing. So many small aspects to it that look really cool. But whether it's something like that or just a face on a blank background, there is a reason for every artistic choice that is made in this book, and every one of them helps drive the book forward. And that is the mark of excellent artwork, if you ask me. It has to be not only beautiful, but important to the story that's being told. And The Wicked and the Divine does that exceptionally well. Here's another great example of just some incredible artwork. It just looks so good. I really enjoyed our main character of Laura. I think she's a very interesting character, and her interactions with some of the other gods that she meets along the way is just, it's so well done. Each one of them is unique and just interesting to learn about as we progress through this story. And one could definitely argue that the whole plot or the reveal of the second arc is basically a throwaway plot moment when it happens. And I can definitely see where that argument might come in. But that said, to me, it doesn't even matter, because that is second fiddle to everything else that is going on, specifically in this second arc. I think the first arc is really good in that it introduces us to these characters, but it kind of gets lost in the middle a little bit with these introductions, whereas the second part of the book really is not introducing as many new characters. There are some, but it's really letting us get to know these characters a bit more, and that's what really works about the second arc in this book. This is one of those stories that definitely saves the best for last. And when I got to the end, I was literally saying, what the hell, out loud to myself as I finished it. It just blew me away. I'm not one to read very quickly, and I almost never finish an entire trade paperback in one sitting. It just doesn't happen. But after I finished issue 6, I think it was the next night, I opened the book back up to start issue 7. And then before I knew it, I was back in the very back of the book looking through the special features, because I'd read the entire, what would have been volume 2 of the trade paperback, or issues 7 through 11 in the book. I was hooked. I couldn't put it down. It was incredible. So The Wicked and the Divine book 1 isn't perfect, but it had a lot to say about fame and fandom that got me interested in the beginning. And then once the second arc took off, it turned things up to 11, and I was absolutely hooked. I have to know where this book is going to go. It's incredibly drawn. The artwork is stunning in some panels, and the story it is so cool. It's incredibly unique, and it's one that I have to know how it ends. So I am giving The Wicked and the Divine, Book 1, 4.5 out of 5 stars. Alright, so that's going to do it for my review of The Wicked and the Divine, Book 1. Let me know down in the comments below. Have you read this series? What did you think if you did? If you haven't, is this something you might consider picking up? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to have some more conversation with you down there. As always, if you did enjoy this video, please consider subscribing to Cinefessions here on YouTube. And if not, thank you anyway for watching. I really appreciate it. Alright, so I want to thank everyone for watching, and I'll catch you next time.